What's up, my know-it-alls? We're continuing our celebration of 30 years of Image Comics with WILDC.A.T.s #1, which was published in August of 1992. Now, WILDC.A.T.s was the first book published by Homage Studios. It's Jim Lee's former studio, which would eventually become Wildstorm. Now, Jim Lee would go on to sell Wildstorm over to DC Comics, effectively giving them all of his characters and intellectual property. Jim Lee was the guy meaning aspiring comic book artists, because that's what I was with it back then, we wanted to be him. He single-handedly redefined the industry with his hyper-realistic, hatchline-filled illustrations. Now, the first issue of WILDC.A.T.s starts out July 29th, 1980. Scientists from the U.S. research station Zebra discover the remains of a Russian satellite that had crash-landed in the Antarctic. Now, from the wreckage, a character we could come to know later as Adrianna Teshkova, now known as Void, appears. She speaks wildly about something called the Orb, and then she disappears into the time stream. Now, moving forward in time to August 9th, 1992. At the International Operations, or I.O. Crisis Center, pay attention, this is a place you're going to see a lot in Image Comics in the days to come. But in McLean, Virginia, Director John Lynch monitors an explosion taking place in Georgetown. His assistant, Frank Colby, suggests to him that the explosion may have been caused by two rogue covert action teams. Now, Void appears in the middle of the room and just as quickly teleports away again. This event actually takes place between issues numbers 1 through 2. I believe in the pages of Image Comics #0, which is featured a Gen 13 prequel story. Back on August 8th, 1990, a group of New York street thugs decides to beat up on a homeless man. Now, this man's name is Jacob Marlowe. Marlowe pops off a blast of energy, a power we learn later that he has forgotten he has. It's not the first time that we learn Jacob knows more than he can remember. As plot devices go, this one's actually pretty well 90s. Void teleports to the scene from the time stream and informs Marlowe he is in fact an alien named Lord Emp from the planet Carib. She tells him that he is meant for a greater destiny and decides to help him on the road to recovery. Now we flash forward to August 8th, 1992, collectively the present. We match cut to Jacob Marlowe sleeping one off in an alley, and Jacob stumbles to a building in Midtown where he's suited up and shaved in the elevator and goes to the penthouse. Turns out Jacob Marlowe is now the CEO of Halo Incorporated. Halo Incorporated is a multi-billion-dollar company. Not only that, but he's the leader of a team of alien-human hybrid agents known as the WILDC.A.T.s. Now, they're not actually known as the WILDC.A.T.s. That name actually comes on later, because WILDC.A.T.s is a military designation we find which stands for Wild Covert Action Teams. WILDC.A.T.s. But the WILDC.A.T.s collectively are Marlowe, Void, Spartan, Maul, and Warblade. Void informs Marlowe that they've got to stop the Damonite Cabal from initiating Project Reunification. To this end, they must find a gifted one with the power of sight before the Cabal does. Later the same day, we find Hellspawn, leader of the Cabal, and his agents Pike, Providence, Hestia, and Devon. Hellspawn discovers that a Cabal lackey named Alberto Cassini has betrayed them by selling information on the location of the gifted ones to an information broker known as the Gnome. Now, the Gnome's one of those characters that I really love the way he's depicted, but unfortunately we only get like a split second of him. Hellspawn has Pike kill Cassini by he smashes his face into a bowl of pasta, because how else do you kill an Italian guy? Because racist. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. Wicked sense of humor. Sorry about that. The following day, Marlowe and Void go to visit the Gnome in Iran. Again, the Gnome, really interesting looking character, but we don't get to see nearly enough of him. So the Gnome gives Marlowe the location of the gifted one in exchange for an unconditional and undisclosed promise that Marlowe swears to honor. After receiving the information, the WILDC.A.T.s fly off to Georgetown, Virginia. Meanwhile, the adventurer known as Grifter and his mentor, the Coda Warrior Zealot, likewise track down the location of the gifted one. Now, Grifter's really cool. He's one of those characters that we're going to see a lot of in the coming days, because he's a big part of Wildstorm later. So Grifter goes inside a strip club called the Hot Spot, because That's what you named strip clubs in the 90s in comic books. Wherein he finds Priscilla Catane, also known as Voodoo, dancing on stage. Now, she's supposed to be wearing, it's supposed to be like a stripper outfit, but it's really just a glorified superhero suit, which I find really funny. He's about to approach her when he recognizes the Coda assassin Devin, as well as 2 Daemonite agents entering the room. Now, Voodoo has this uncanny ability, it's why they sent her, to see Daemonites in their true form. The Daemonites are shapeshifters. Now, they inhabit someone's body, almost like a symbiote, almost like Venom, for lack of a better description. Now, Grifter springs into action and begins fighting the Daemonite agents. The Wildcats emerge out of nowhere on the scene and they lend Grifter some assistance helping out, but then Zealot likewise arrives, and when she shows up, it is a full splash page. Dun dun dun! So she shows up and helps likewise to finish off the last of the Daemonites. The Coda assassin Devin, refusing to go down quietly, detonates a large explosion that destroys the entire club. This is the explosion that was recorded by Director Lynch in the beginning of the issue. Time's starting to catch up now. But Lynch isn't the only one monitoring the affair. From his submersible ship, the Behemoth, Hellespont watches the explosion with his Cabal agent, Belial. Belial's actually a mole who's impersonating none other than Vice President Dan Quayle, a cheeky fellow if ever there was one. But there you go, so now you know, and if knowing is half the battle and you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and click the little bell icon so that you can be notified when new content drops. I'm Mr. Know-It-All, never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.